Watching News at Prime, let's pick up on this conversation now. The Gauteng Provincial Legislature says it is concerned about the province's high crime levels ahead of this month's elections. Last week, the Community Safety Department presenting its security plans for the elections. The Gauteng has the highest number of registered voters in the country. Let's speak now to the chairperson of the legislature's Portfolio Committee on Community Safety, Dr Bandile Masuku. Dr Masuku, good evening to you, and thank you for your time. The Community Safety Department coming to you to present their security plans, particularly around elections. What did you see in that plan, and are you satisfied?
Good evening, and good evening to your viewers, and thanks for having us on your show. Yes, we are totally satisfied with what they presented to us, because it was not only the Department of Community Safety, it was also the Police Commissioner who presented the whole Prof Joint plan on elections. Our concern mainly is because of the high number of crime, and also, that could pose a particular threat to the elections, particularly on the election days, as announced.
Yeah, and you speak about the high crime levels. There is one particular township that just does not seem to be letting up when it comes to incidents of violence. 2 people were actually shot dead. I think it's probably 2 weeks apart, the latest being this past weekend, where a 5-year-old was caught in the crossfire because his father was being hijacked. And the hijackers, I don't know whether it is even appropriate to call killing a child as collateral damage. It is just painful to even try to understand. What are police saying about crime in the township areas?
It's a gruesome story, and I think it's something that we have called upon the police to act very quickly and swiftly and apprehend those who are actually, suspect or who are responsible for this crime. And I think as a committee, it's an important thing that we pass our condolences to the family and friends of the, of the young one. The issue here is that there are 160 voting stations which have been earmarked as high risk, and all these high risk stations are actually based in townships, and townships like in Soshanguve and Jugulane, and some of the suburbs where we get high levels of gang-related violence, and also where these voting stations are, which are high risk. It's also where there's illegal mining going on. So this is where the focus would be in terms of deployment of extra personnel, in terms of the police and also other law enforcers that have been called upon to collaborate with the police to make sure that the elections are safeguarded. So we are going to have police, escalating their numbers, and also the soldiers will also be part. Some members of tactical response unit will also be part of the of the deployments, particularly in the stations where there is high risk, as mentioned.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned a specific unit within the police. You mentioned the tactical response team. I won't reveal where I heard this information, but how or what are you told about the K9 unit? And unfortunately, we're going to have to confine ourselves to Gauteng, the Gauteng province, because that is your jurisdiction. Because information suggests that the police may be limping in terms of the dog units around the country. Just give us what you are told in these plans. Is it detailed information that you are given?
detailed information, and which some might not be able to be published or even be shared with the public, but it is detailed information. And where the units are limping, there have been reinforcements, and that's the reason why the SNDF is also roped into the whole actually project of safeguarding the elections. And in these areas where there's high risk, there will definitely be more of law enforcers, on the ground. Remember, there will be different types of law enforcers. We in Gauteng, we do have crime prevention wardens. We do have private security companies. We do have, the soldiers themselves, and these units that have been mobilized, particularly for Gauteng, will also be on the ground. So the information that has been shared is quite detailed, even though some might not be shared with the public, because it's also part of the intelligence data that has been collected.
Yeah. Dr. Masuku, the elections are going to come and go post the 29th of May. The people of Soshanguve are going to be left with the serious crime, high crime levels that persist there right now. What specific interventions can be brought to bear in Soshanguve, because that area is crying out for serious intervention?
Yes, if you remember well, we've been engaging with the public. It's not the first time that some of these incidences happen, and we have called upon the police to be responsive and to account on some of their actions, because some of the complaints from the communities is that our police are not pretty much responsive to their calls. They don't respond to calls. And there were also some allegations that were made that police do work with some of the gangsters around the township. And we have had several engagements. We had a public engagement meeting sometime late last year, where we engaged the police, and there was some form of response, but we are hoping that this time, instead of having a piecemeal type of a response, we'll have a very comprehensive and long-acting type of response that we actually require from the police. Because one of the things that we complain about, or that we raise with them, is that usually some of the response is very much short-term, and it does work on the short term, but on the long term, when they pull out of the area, then the area goes back to its usual and chaotic self.
Dr. Masuku, I can't pretend that I did not hear what you've just said. In fact, it is very alarming. You are saying that your information as the portfolio committee is that police are working with known gangsters. Is that specifically in Soshanguve or other areas?
It's general allegations that have been raised, and it is a source of concern. And we have been raising it with the commissioner in other spaces where we have received information from the communities through the committee itself. We have been able to raise, the issue. And in other instances, we've seen that the leadership of some police stations have changed because of, our own engagement with the police and raising this concern. And we also still call upon the public, to continuously raise and report police that are doing wrong and who are not, committed to the, actually to the service. And these are police that, in actual fact, discourage all the other police that are actually hardworking and who are committed to the work, and who we do see some of their work every day in the arrest that they do.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap the conversation, Dr. Masuku, I've got to ask a question that I asked you previously when you were in studio here some time ago. There are experts in this field of crime, and then there are academics who are clear that the socio-economic challenges of South Africa is in big part the reason for our country's high crime levels. But there are those right now as we head into this election, who are calling for the death penalty to be brought back, i.e., the Inkatha Freedom Party. I don't think they're the only ones. I just can't remember the other party. But they are calling for the return of the death penalty. Is that what will make crime abate for a moment while the socio-economic challenges are being dealt with? What is the ANC-led government's short-term solution to this?
We have had different engagements on the matter, on issues relating to prevention and also creating deterrence from people who enter into this type of criminal activities. But we know in terms of research that have been produced elsewhere, even in the country here, is that death penalty has never acted as a deterrent to crime levels. And I think one of the issues that we need to do actually is to heighten the police action, even in terms of monitoring. One of the discussions that we had as a committee at some point was the issue of instituting some stricter measures which are almost akin to a state of emergency, particularly in areas where, like we're actually talking about Soshanguve now, in areas such as Soshanguve, which will help the police to be able to do their policing quite well and also get some of the civil, civil part of the army to be part of those. And these are discussions that are ongoing, and we've been doing quite a lot of research in the, in that area, and we've seen the countries where they've instituted such kind of measures that their crime rate has been actually well controlled. But it doesn't take away the issue that the socioeconomic factors still require to be dealt with, and also we need a comprehensive response. And I think the social development response, the discussion about the basic income grant and all that are also assisting in that discussion. But the death penalty on its own, it's known, it's proven academically that in research that it doesn't act as a deterrent. In actual fact, some of the countries that do have it, they still do have high levels of crime rate. We still require enough, sufficient, and heightened level of policing.
Dr. Bandile Masuku, let me thank you very much for your time, sir. He is the chairperson.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks indeed for your time. Chair of the Portfolio Committee on Community Safety in the Gauteng Legislature.